I've been working like a 9-to-5 job for the past like 3 years, and I wanted to step into my own business, and I feel like I have it in me, but I'm just like so I don't know, quiet and been kind of waiting around, but I know nothing's gonna happen if I do that. So I just want to let go of like being stagnant, I guess, in my comfort zone.
So good. Glad you're here. Yes.
So I just want to say I loved your comment on trying things on, because I think that's such a great analogy for feeling like you get to be in a space where you're not committed, but not because you're not committed, but because you don't, oftentimes if you don't feel like you have the level of confidence to assume that compliment or that thing that is actually meant to be assigned for you, you get to try it on and see how it feels, and then realize, wait a minute, actually I do want this, or I actually can take it off and let it go, right? I feel like for myself, especially with this question in this next season, it's been really interesting because, like you women in here, you're here because you're ambitious, right? You're here because you're a fighter, because you want more, because you know you're called for more. And so you're doing the things necessary to like step into what that's like to do and be and grow. And I myself find myself in that same place where I feel like, yeah, I'm totally there, and I like love to smash things and get them done and all the things. But I feel like in this next season, or even in this like last little bit, that so many internal things have literally just shut off. Where it was like, nope, that's actually that door, I'm closing this door, and I'm closing that door, and I'm closing this door. And not because the potential isn't there, or it's not, it's just, it's almost this idea of like, I believe I'm moving into a season that I have no context for. I don't know what it looks like, and I don't even know what to, for those of us planners, the ambitious type, you're like, oh no, I'm setting the goal, and once I have the goal, I'm gonna like put it there, and then I'm gonna figure out all the details, and then once I figure out that roadmap, I'm just gonna start slaying, tackle this, tackle that. But you already know, because you have the end in sight, right? You already know what you're after. And in this next season, I feel like internally, I keep getting this sense of, no, faith is a substance that you hope for, but you don't see it. There's no obvious example of what that is, but it's a hope, and it's an internal something, it's a birthing of something that I have no tangibility of evidence for, right? Of like nothing. And it's such a weird, first time in my life that I've ever been in a position where I'm like, what is that? Like, okay, cool, but what is it? And I feel like I need to let go. I need to let go of feeling like I need to know what it is and how it is. Because in this next season, I feel like to step into it, in order to do that, I have to have a totally blank slate and not draw from the things that I think that I know, or skills that I feel like, oh, I'm really good at this, so I'm just gonna lean into this. Or I have a vision for this, so I'm just gonna like push that into the framework, right? But inside, there's this sense of like, it's almost like when there's a window there, but the blinds are down. There's a window. I could lift up the blinds and look through, but it's like but the blinds are there. It's like, nope, that is meant to be closed. So it's just really, I love this question because it's very provoking, where it's like, yeah, that's a great question. What do I need to leave behind? And I need to leave behind the knowing, the need to know what it looks like.
So good. That was I feel like you guys just like speak to my soul like in ways I didn't even know I needed.
I love it. So good. Well, I just loved hearing from all of you guys, and we're gonna move into using our connection cards. And this one is still based off of a similar idea as far as as far as what you need to let go for your next season. And maybe you're answering this, maybe you're not, maybe you're picking a picture, maybe you're not, but it was going to be, what is a vision that you see for your next season, that as you let go, what's a story? So you're going to pick a picture that represents what is coming next to you. So maybe yours is the open window. Right? So you're going to pick a picture that kind of represents either what you intuitively see for next season, or here's another thing. Like, I know that for me, when I've planned for things in the future, I did a long time ago, there was this book, it's called The Desire Map, and it's all about planning your calendar, but it's more so about how you want to feel. And so what does that look like in your next season, that as you let go of certain things, okay, I know I'm letting go of this, and I know this is maybe where I'm being called to step into, but I also really want to be intentional about how I want to feel in that season, or what I want to stand firm in, or what I want to be really grounded in, either in my identity or in the future of where I'm being called to go, or what I'm being called to create. So that's the picture that I want you guys to choose, and then we're just gonna have a little family chat about it. Sound good? Oops, sorry about that. Here, I know.
All right, woohoo!
Grab some of those.
Thank you.
Feeling risky.
Find one that just kind of speaks to you. Sorry.
Oh no, sorry.
And you can trust your gut, trust your intuition, where all of a sudden you're like, ooh, that one stands out with me. I don't quite know why, but okay, that one is really landing. My heart is drawn to that one, or something speaks to me about this picture, even if you don't quite know what the full definition of it is yet. You can trust your gut, you can trust your intuition that you're being drawn to that picture for something. And if in the pile that you have, if there isn't anything, feel free to swap with your neighbor.
Want to go through these just in case? Sure.
And because we're a smaller group today, we are going to take up space in the front of the room, and we are going to own the front of the room today.
Sure. All right.
So what we got here?
All right, Lauren, you want to start?
Sure.
So this picture calls to me because there's something about trees just being so tall that feels expansive. And the vision that I have for the YouTube channel is more than anything about who I become as a person for doing the hard thing. But I know that it's so mentally tough to show up in that way, to do the work, that I equally need to be really rooted in the vision that I have for myself if I show up in this way. And I love the fact that at first all I saw was the trees, and then oh gosh, I'm gonna get emotional. Whew, that one just hit me. And then I saw a person sitting on a bench near the trees, and I feel like what that represents for me is just that peace that I will find as I'm growing, and just the knowing that that inner part of me that feels like this is the way I need to show up understands what it's asking of me, but it is there through the process. It's there to witness who I am. It's there to witness who I become. And I always like to weirdly think about my life in terms of like regrets sometimes. I think that's like the military aspect. A lot of times I'll say like, okay, if I only have 2 or 3 years in this place, what would I absolutely regret not doing, not showing up for? And I don't think about it all the time, but I do think about it when I'm making big decisions. And I know without a shadow of a doubt that this is like the one thing that if I show up on God's doorstep tomorrow, I would be bummed that I didn't get to meet the version of Lauren that did the hard thing and that showed up to serve people in the way that YouTube is calling me to show up and serve them as. So.
I love that.
Awesome.
Yes.
Sorry, that just came out of nowhere.
That was awesome.
Who would
Do
like
it,
to go
girl.
next?
All right, Anna.
Okay, so I picked the holding hands. I think my vision of this for myself, I see just meeting new people and making strong connections to help me grow as well as a person and just learn as much as I can from each of the new people I make connections with.
Awesome.
Love it. Love it.
That's so scary for me.
You're doing great.
So good.
Really good.
You're doing
I
so
love
good.
that because ours is pretty similar, right?
Yeah.
We both have the hands.
Yeah.
I liked mine because of two things: the vibrancy of it. I felt like this is special. This is exciting. There's an excitingness to it, but an intimacy of like, you know, when you're that close to someone, you have to trust them really well. You know, like you have to be okay if you're sweating or they're sweating or you know what I mean, like.
Someone smells
Anything, right? Or even like to hold someone's hands that tightly, you like can't be thinking about it. You're like, there's an energetic pull of like, no, it's not, and it feels like it's not just intimacy, because that to me feels like, you know what I mean? But this is like, oh, we're doing this, you know, like we're doing it, we're jumping, whatever, but it just feels this feels to me like this next season of like, I don't know, I feel like there's going to be an excitement, an intimacy, a season of not being self-aware.
Trust too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
That's great. I like that. When you were talking earlier, I was thinking of a quote from Jordan Peterson. I went to his last event in Salt Lake City, and it was awesome. And like one of the things that he said that like stuck out to me the most is he said, "The faithless look back." I was just like, because there's just so many times in life where it's just like there's that regret, or you know, if I only would have known, or I missed that, or you know, you're grieving lost expectations. You know, you expected X, Y, and Z to happen, and it didn't, and it was devastating. You know, for its own reasons or whatever. The faithless look back, and so that I've thought about that a lot, just moving forward in my life and like my dreams and my ambitions and my family and our goals and all those things. And I mean, truly, the only direction we're going, whether we want to or not, is forward. And so I don't know. I just thought of that.
It's great.
It's
Okay.
look back. And anyways, I just loved Jordan Peterson. I got a picture of them.
Fangirling.
Yeah, there you go. First piece of content.
There we go. So this is the one that I chose because I'm just a firm believer that like everything is figure outable, and you just have to be willing to just dig in and figure it out. And I've been feeling that pull to move in this direction for a long time, and you know, the last while I'm starting to like pull all the different pieces together to make that happen. I don't usually tell my friends or family what I'm doing because I'm also a firm believer is like under promise and over deliver. And so I haven't told them what I'm doing. My husband and Charity have been like the only ones that I have told like what I'm working towards, because I think a lot of people, they don't understand, or they can be naysayers, or there's just this automatic part in our brain that just starts processing perceived judgment or perceived expectations, whatever it is. And so I haven't told anybody a lot of the things that I'm working towards because of that, because I don't want it to be diluted or tainted. Like, I have the drive, I've got the focus, and that's why I'm willing to talk about it here because you guys are like-minded people. And so I'm just excited that I'm putting pieces together with the right people. And I know that anything that I'm lacking in my plan, it is figure outable, and that I can find the pieces now or later, whenever. But if I put in the effort, it's all figure outable. And finding the right people, sometimes it's finding the right person to network with and collaborate with. Anyways, it's just, I'm excited about that and just deeply rooted in this concept. Whether it's like, spiritual, like faith-filled kind of directions, or business or family, like it's all figure outable. So that's why I chose the Pilgrims.
Love it.
So there we go, everybody.
All figure out them all. I like that.
I love it. And I'm going to share mine because a couple of them actually resonated with me, and then we're going to hear from Viorica in just a minute. So these two equally stood out to me, and I almost feel like it was like I'm hearing first comes love, then comes the marriage, right? Then comes the baby carriage. Like, it was almost like this open door, like that's cracked, is like what is the next, like that I step into for what's next, and then something like this is what's on the other side of the door. Like, it's big and it's expansive, and it's like, even when I look at this, it's almost like, in the best way, it makes me feel small.
I get that.
But it's like, oh, thank God. Like, because the dumb little things that are like spinning around in my head are really not that important. Or the hard things that are keeping me up at night are really not that big. Or the blocks that I might be coming up against, there are way bigger things out there. So it's almost like this invitation into bigger expansion, but also this juxtaposition of, actually, it's like gonna make me feel small, but in the best way. And so I don't know even if that makes sense, or that's kind of the truth that lives in the tension of, I'm being called into something expansive and bigger, and I'm also going to feel really, really small. So I don't quite know what that looks like, but that's what. And like, there's like, I'm even looking at the picture, like, there's a mountain to climb, but there's also, like, I can see the top. And I also feel like another picture that's coming to mind is a mountain climber has gear, and they have their tool belt, and they have all of this different stuff to where, like, they're equipped for the journey.
Yeah.
And they know, okay, I know the pathway, like, I can see the rocks that I'm gonna grab, and I'm gonna pull here, and, like, I've done the work beforehand to make it to the top. And that's how I feel like, if this doesn't look like a big, huge, overwhelming mountain wall to me, it's like, oh, I've got the tools with me, and I've done the work, where it's like, yeah, like, it's gonna be a really fun adventure. Like, when we, like, when we go on a hike, like, yes, yeah, like, fun adventure, like, right, like, that's what that looks like to me. And then there's gonna be like an even another expansive view at the top. So that's what is coming up for me, which is really exciting.
Magnificent.
We'll keep we'll keep each other informed on the journey. I'm gonna have, so Viorica, as you connect your thing, I actually want you three ladies to keep your cards.
Oh, sorry.
And the questions that are on the back, you guys can just kind of circle up and chat about, like, ask each other the questions that are on the back of your cards. And Viorica is gonna hook up her presentation. So go ahead and have a little chat for a minute while we do some text.
Okay. Let's do it. I'll just cool. Here we go. All right. Is there a mystery or unanswered question that has intrigued you?
Or you have to
I don't know. Because I was like, I read this question 3 times and I was like,
Like, is there? I don't, like,
Yeah.
okay. Is there a mystery or unanswered question that has intrigued you?
Maybe how to get them started with my
What is intriguing about
Could it be your version to taking the lead?
yeah, I mean, I think that I think the whole mystery is like, how do I calm and focus on the process instead of like outcome-based goals like money? How do I detach my feelings of being valued based on like external experiences? So like one of the things that was really tough for me when I first started my business was like I was making money but not a livable wage, and so I was supplementing that with savings. And when I planned all of that, because I knew I saved a bunch of money, and when I planned all that, I was like, okay, this is great, right? And then the experience of not being able to like support yourself right away from your ability to create income, well, it was hard for me to detach like my self-worth from that. Like it felt less awesome than I experienced, because in my mind it's just like money is money, right? But it is if you can detach your self-worth from it, but it's not if you can't.
It's hard. I think it was Russell. He just talks about how we like cycles. Instead of calling it it's also cycling through. And so, like his mentor, or one of his mentors, was just starting on this business. That's when he's like, how many times have I said, how many times has he looked at business? Or to the big campaign, or
Like a launch or something.
yeah. It is. Oh. And we just went on to talk about how you can become passionate about the process and be excited about the process. And that's one thing too that I said in school, more excited about the process than the outcome.
Yeah, like the things
So,
you
like,
can control. Like,
Well,
did you?
learning how to get there, but the process to get to E
Yeah,
should be more exciting, and treating and we should be more passionate and obsessed with the process than the outcome. And the outcome just will come if we can become passionate about the process. And part of the process is sometimes
messier than
go from 0 to 100 right away.
I think
But
I'm learning that still.
but you're the on that, right?
Yeah. Go. I love all that. You guys have questions?
What are you
Yeah.
What are your plans?
So I just got my mortgage loan review license, so I'm starting mortgages. But I worked in accounting before this, and then I had a credit repair business. So that was kind of the cycle because it's hard to keep up with the technological these days and everything. I started out. Back. So mortgage is done. But aside from that, I mean, numbers, I guess, but also being I'm a good listener. And that's one of the things I want to learn to be better at. Too.
I think you have a very quiet presence, but like it's calming. So I think you can shine without, like, with still being like authentic to like how you feel on the inside.
Yeah.
Because the brightest light doesn't have to be the loudest light. I need friends like you because I am like a lion person. Yeah.
What moment in your life fills you with the most pride? Wow, it's blessed enough to have these.
Grow up, ladies, are real.
But we also did foster care growing up.
Oh wow.
Was that so good or what?
It's awesome.
The connection is the best. It's my favorite, the best.
Eureka, if I have to step out in like 10-15 minutes,
That's fine.
it's not
Just
because you're not amazing.
I love you.
But we're
I just have to go. Okay.
So this is all new. So I love that I get to share some of my favorite things in the whole entire world. But first I want to kind of talk to you about, let's see, is it still showing us?
I'll go get someone. I don't know what that is.
I'll tell you guys a little bit of my story first as to how and why it is that I got into the financial industry, because to me that's like the most exciting, right? Before coming into the financial space, I actually was working as a home health nurse. And so my husband was also working at St. Al's, and he was working on becoming an anesthetist, and we were both like in this, rat race of we're just gonna be like these health geeks, because we loved health, right? Before that, he was a personal trainer. And so he, was like just in that space of health and wanting to be, fit and all the things. And I was raised in a family of immigrants that came to the States. Well, when we came to the States, as coming from a communist country, they have very strict guidelines behind what's a successful and praiseworthy career versus what's not. And in our, environment, it was either you're in the medical field or you're engineering or law or something, but anything outside of that was just like, that was just not, it just wasn't gonna fly. That wasn't a respectable career. And so when we moved to the States, it was like, okay, well, we have to do, my parents were like, hey, we have to learn English, and then we have to do something that's reliable. And so we got onto the health, bandwagon. And so my mom, became a nurse and then a practitioner or whatnot. And of course, every child had to follow suit. It was like, don't even breathe in my direction. If you're not doing something that's going to honor the family, you can't be a disgrace for us, right? So we did all of that. And we were like, okay, we're going to do that. And we met my husband and we were like, okay, this is so cool. We're going to open up our own, nursing home, and this is going to be great. We're just going to be this like raha family of, medical people. And so as you can see here, this is my handsome husband, and we have 4 children, and we breed these little doodles, right? So we have a fun little breeding business of doodles because we are that way. That's my baby fix right there, right? Having kids is my baby, or not having kids, having puppies is my baby fix. So anyway, so what we did as a family was we did, that whole rat race of feeling like we're going to be successful in building this nursing home. In fact, our first and only at this point in time, the home that we bought, when we bought it, we have a house downtown Boise, and it's on an acre of land, and it's an old 1960s house. And so the purpose that we bought it, because of the acreage, and it's 5 minutes from St. Al's, about 10 minutes from St. Al's, about 6 minutes from Luke's. We thought it's a perfect place because of the space to demo this house, because the house wasn't worth much of anything at the time, well, even still. And we figured, okay, we're just going to build this big nursing home on it, right? So it was all with the purpose of investing our lives into this, career. Well, long story short, we end up doing the whole, 9 to 5, working a million, hours a week, starting to have kids, 1 kid, 2 kids, 3 kids later. All of a sudden we're like, wait a minute, this is like not what we signed up for, right? Here I was working as a home health nurse, serving in pediatrics, right, in peds, helping other people's babies that came home from the NICU and needed a nurse 24 hours, whatever, on site, at least 12 hours a day while their parents were sleeping in order to keep their baby alive, and my babies were at home waiting for mommy. And I would have to get permission to nurse them, right, to have my husband come on site to get my breast milk to feed them, because the home was a violation of, HIPAA privacy, because it was, my workplace was their home. And so all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute. So here I am slaving for somebody else while my kids are suffering at home. Maybe not suffering, but you know what it's like, right? When you're raising babies and they need you. They need mommy. And so I started to watch my life and started to think, okay, is this it? Like, is this what I signed up for? And then I started to watch my mom, right, and my family, living the American dream. Was starting to build assets, starting whatever, but literally they had no time, and the end was never, nowhere in sight for them. I'm like, you're a practitioner right now. Whatever happened to selling out to the dream of like, you know, putting in your time so that now when I'm starting to have babies, your grandkids, you don't have time for them. You can't hang out with them. And then my husband and I started thinking, because we were always in passing. And when he wasn't working at the hospital, right? It was like, okay, high five. See ya. You know, like now it's my turn to do baby duty, right? And so we're always in like on opposite schedules. And so finally my husband and I got to praying. We said, look, there's something's got to change. And we started house hunting. And you know what it's like when you start growing, you start outgrowing your space and your family's getting bigger. And then you start realizing you have, you know, we were paying off all of our debt. We were doing the responsible thing. And we were getting totally debt free, which I learned later was not actually the smart thing to do. Not that debt freedom isn't smart, it's paying off the right kind of debt, not the wrong, right? So then I started to realize, oh my gosh, okay, we paid off all the student loans, paid up our cars, paid up our house, did what we thought was like the right thing to do. And then all of a sudden we start looking around to find a new home to be like, well, we kind of need more space. And we're driving around neighborhoods, nope, can't afford that. Nope, can't afford that. Nope, can't afford that. And you finally get to the point where you feel a little bit defeated and ask yourself the question, hold the phone. What's happening right now? Why can we not afford these things? What is going on? What do they do that we don't do? What do people know that we don't know? Because as far as we knew, we were making a pretty good income, right? We both had great jobs, had careers, you know, like reputable ones that as far as my family was concerned, was respectable, right? But if we do this, I guarantee you, these people in this $1 million neighborhood, that $1 million neighborhood, that $1 million neighborhood, and we find out that there's actually $1 million neighborhoods everywhere in the valley. Boise, Eagle, even Caldwell, Nampa. And I'm thinking, hold on, because I know they're not all surgeons. Right? I know that they're not all high ticket paying items or like jobs. So they know something we don't. What is that? And it was at that point that we started praying and asking God and saying, you gotta help us out. You gotta teach us what we don't know. And so we started watching videos, started reading books, and it was in a very short amount of time that we started realizing we are just keep it on. We are in the wrong industry. That's the problem. Because here we are working for somebody else, and ain't nobody paying us, right? Like, we're fulfilling somebody else's dream. So then we started to realize, we started to learn some of these basic concepts. Awesome. Now, unfortunately, when it comes to money, right, we started to realize the financial industry is the largest industry, right, as far as largest earning. Why? Because it's a transfer of wealth, right? It's just the money game. And we started to learn that there's a few things when it comes to the money game that if you don't understand how it works, it will absolutely work against you, right? And so when we did that, as we started to pray about it and ask the Lord to teach us, at that point in time, we read a book, Tony Robbins' Money Master the Game. Somebody came to our home, right? Just randomly, somebody came to our home and they were like, do you know how that works? Are you familiar how your policy works? And all of a sudden we're like, oh, there's so much we don't know. And but it wasn't because I wasn't ignorant or dumb. It's just because I didn't know, right? Because every industry has its ticket items that you have to kind of, know the lingo for in order to do well in or to even get it. And so when it comes to the financial world, there's just a basic few foundational things that you have to know in order to play the game, right? So these are a few things that, obviously we want to, look at and kind of understand. Paying yourself first. Believe it or not, when we earn money, when you guys went to school or even as your parents started paying you an allowance or when you started going to your first job, did anybody ever tell you that the first rule to money, the very, very first rule to money was to pay yourself first? Did anybody learn that? No, oddly enough, right? Isn't that weird that the number one thing that will allow you to become wealthy, which is paying yourself first, nobody would ever talk about? It's the foundational truth. All things money is paying yourself first. And I'll show you why in a minute. Knowing your financial independent number, right? Knowing how much money you need to acquire in order to have enough saved that you can no longer have to trade your time for income. right? Your financial independent number, your thin number. Understanding how to adjust your priorities. Because we all know that priorities are important. But which priorities are important to, align is super important to understand. Changing your thinking about money. Money is, unfortunately, you'd think as soon as you earn it that you would somehow be given the proper mindset for it. But that's not actually true. Money is just a tool, but it'll enhance what you know, right? And so changing your thinking around money, adjusting your lifestyle is super, super important, right? Because the money game comes with some loopholes, right? When it comes to, if you don't have enough, you've got to adjust some things. Earning additional income at times if you need to. And then, of course, realigning your assets, avoiding the credit trap, and then having a goal, like having a plan. So let's talk about paying yourself first. Because the first dollar that you ever get, this is important to understand even for your kids, okay? When you give your children an allowance, you need to teach them how to pay themselves first. Now, if you believe in tithing, then that comes with paying yourself first, right? So you first, if you believe in tithing, you give God his 10% or whatever you think, and then 20% must go in your pocket. It must be saved. Paying yourself first, okay? The most important thing. And then whatever is left over is the money that you can actually spend and allot for bills and for every other thing. Because truly, bills will always be there. And every month can be acquired a lot more or a lot less just depending on your lifestyle. But if you're not paying yourself first, who's taking care of you? You need to, right?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
When you say pay yourself first, that 20%, would that include like future you, like your retirement savings? Or is that like in addition to the 20%?
No, that includes that.
Okay.
That definitely includes that. So let me help you understand what that looks like, okay? Very great question. Excellent, I love it. So when you're paying yourself first, right, there's 3 fundamental accounts that you need to allot for, okay? This is what it looks like to pay yourself first. Now, when you're paying yourself first, to have a complete savings program, you must need to have 3 different types of accounts. Now, when somebody initially will look at something like this and think, oh my gosh, that's so much money. Where am I going to get the money to fund this and then fund this and then fund this? Let me help you understand. If we're looking at a complete savings program, let's just say all you have to pay yourself first is $100. That's all you can allot for, right? You pay yourself first $100. And then the rest of the money that you earn for the month, you use to pay your bills and everything else that you need to pay for, right? Schools or whatever. But of that $100 that you were able to pay yourself first, that $100 needs to be diversified into 3 separate accounts. The first account is your emergency fund. Now, your emergency fund is anywhere between 3 to 6 months of income, okay? You build that up and then you stop adding. So, for example, if you have $100 a month, you would first do 50, 25, 25. Right? Because you want to build up this emergency fund at least till it's at the 3-month mark, and then you can cut back. Then the short-term savings is anything that is between 3 to 5 year up to 10 years that you would like to have a particular goal. Whether you want to take your family on a vacation, you want to buy a car, you want to put a down payment on a home, something of that nature, it should go into this short-term savings account, right? And then, of course, retirement is anything, right, 65 and above, right? So you're saving for retirement. And the reason why you need to set up these 2 separate accounts outside of retirement is because, heaven forbid, if you're saving money for retirement and you don't have an emergency fund and you don't have any of these other accounts saved, you will then have to dip into your retirement, and it comes with penalties, right? And you stop the compounding, which I'll show you here in a minute what that looks like and why it's so crucial to not disturb your compounding, right? And so having these different types of accounts are super crucial, and understanding what type of accounts you should be putting these in. So an emergency fund should be something like a money market or a CD, right? Because it's meant for emergencies, for something that you need to liquidate right away, right? You need it liquid right away. Whatever the principal balance is in there, you need all of it, not a little bit. This short-term savings, because it's anywhere between 3 to 5 years, up to 10 years or whatever, you can take a little bit of time and let that build, have some risk associated with it, because you want the higher yielding returns. So something like this would be in a flex fund, right? Or tied some kind of mutual funds. You want your money tied in there because you're earning a higher interest rate on it. So having 3 different fundamental accounts is super, super important. So whatever amount you can put in there is super, we really work with whatever amount you can do. So now, understanding why paying off debt is so important. When we're talking about your financial future, the number one thing that's going to keep you out of retirement, right? Out of actually being able to accumulate money is debt, right? It's your big hole in your bucket. But understanding how to pay your debt is just as important as paying it. Because when you're paying down your debts, if you continue to just pay a little bit over on each one, what you're doing is you're keeping yourself in debt a lot longer. So we use this formula called debt stacking, and Dave Ramsey also calls it snowball effect, right? But when you look at it, this is a typical family. You have, retail cards, credit cards, car loans, mortgage, things of that nature. Now, most families, what they do is they say, hey, I have this amount of debt, right? And I'm just gonna overpay on my Macy's $50. My balance is $100, I'm gonna overpay 50, or my whatever. Or on my, Costco card, I'm gonna overpay whatever, right? Well, by doing that, you actually are accruing a lot more interest, and it keeps you in debt a lot longer. But when you debt stack and you rearrange the payments, so thankfully we have a computer system that does it for us, and it'll target the smallest balance first, and you pay that down. You pay minimums on everything else, pay the smallest balance first, and pay it off completely. And then once you've freed up that money, you add that additional money to your next balance, and then pay that down and pay it down completely, right? But every time, unfortunately, what happens when people come into some freed up money? What do they usually do? Woohoo! Shoes, right? Yay, we get to go buy some whatever. And that is absolutely the wrong thinking, right? If you've already allotted the payment, consider it as if it's still there and pay down bigger chunks of the next debt. And by doing that, you shave off years in payments and hundreds of thousands of dollars in interest paid. Then we look at what's called the theory of decreasing responsibility. Now, this is how life works. There's two major risks in life that we deal with: dying too soon and living too long, right? The two major risks that people are the most afraid of. Now, when you're in this side of the quadrant of being afraid of dying too soon, right, there's a few things you have to take into consideration. When you're a young family, whether you're single, married, with children, whatever it is, when you're on this side of the quadrant, at this stage of your life, you may have young children at home, a little bit of debt, a mortgage, and other things that you're responsible for, liabilities. So at this stage of your life, the loss of your income would be devastating, right? If you depend on somebody else's income, when you're in this stage of your life where you're paying a lot of money out, when you have lots of responsibilities, lots of liabilities, if the loss of your income at this point could quite literally destroy a family, right? And so protecting that is super important, which is why life insurance is so crucial to get you over the hump to the stage of retirement, right? Because during this stage, most people don't have a ton of liquid money that they're saving, right? Savings is usually low in this stage. But as your kids start to grow, when we move to the other side of the quadrant, as your kids start to grow, you start to lower your debt, pay off your mortgage or close to. At this stage in life, you don't need a ton of protection. What you need is liquidity. You need cash. You need to be able to have enough money to live on so that at the point of retirement, when you no longer can work, that you would still have enough cash flow coming in to sustain you until that age, 85, 90, 95, Lord willing, right? And so understanding these two theories in life, right, the theory of decreasing responsibility, it's super important. And this is where life insurance fits in, why most people don't quite understand. Life insurance isn't an option if you're not wealthy. Sometimes I hear people say, oh, well, life insurance is for the rich people. Actually, they don't need it. Rich people don't need it. It's the rest of us who are working on becoming rich, working on becoming financially independent, that if something happened, not only are my kids taken care of, my kids' kids taken care of, we're good, we don't need it. But until you've gotten to that point, because of the time caps, right, that's between where you start versus where you end up, what you need it to float you, so that if, heaven forbid, something were to happen right here in the middle, that everything that you've worked to up to this point, those who depend on you don't have to liquidate everything that they've worked on in order to get you to the point of retirement to be comfortable, right? So understanding the theory of decreasing responsibility is crucial for financial success. Now, how much is enough?
Because oftentimes people will ask me, well, how much coverage do I truly need? Like, what's really important? Well, the first question is, what is your life worth? Right? I know I'm going backwards. But what is your life worth? Meaning, how much money do you actually bring into the home? If you're not the main income earner and your husband is, if something happened to you, what would he have to allot for? Childcare, groceries, house cleaning. What is your value? What is your life value? Forget the emotional stuff, because that's obviously priceless, right? It's priceless. But then look at the practical things. How much is your car worth? Do you guys have cars? Do you have multiple cars? Do you have a boat? What do you have? And if it's not already paid off, if something happened to you, how much would you need in order to pay that down? Well, what is your home worth? And let's not just say now, how about the inflated prices of what it is in order to live in this valley? If something were to happen, right, you want to be able to know that you could pay off your home, or at the very least move into a home and have the median household cost. And so when you look at what your life is worth, it's quite a bit more than what most people think. Because oftentimes people think, well, it's just about burial cost. Yeah, sure, it is to bury you, absolutely, right? But when we're talking about wealth and wealth strategies, these are the most important factors to consider, because if something were to happen, you want to know that all of the things that you needed or that you've been taking care of, that you've been providing for, those who are dependent on you will not only live the same quality of life, but better. Because isn't that why we work? Isn't that why we try to build a business? Why we try to do all these things? Is to give our children and those who are dependent on us a better quality of life. And so taking these into account is super, super important when it comes to, building a wealth portfolio. Now, discovering the rule of 72. Einstein said that the rule of 72 is the 8th wonder of the world, right? There's nothing, there's no force that can, how do you say it? Anyway, it's the 8th wonder of the world, right? Compound interest, and let me show you why. So the rule of 72 is essentially all you do is you take the interest rate and you divide it into 72, and it will tell you the amount of time that it takes for your money to double. Now, let's just say, for example, for illustration's sake, that you have $10,000. Say you came into an inheritance and your family gave you, your parents passed away or something of that nature, right? And you were given a $10,000 balance, right, an inheritance. Well, if you were to take $10,000 and you had it sitting in an account that was earning 3%, it would take 24 years for that money to double in an account that's earning 3%. Now, this right here, this slide, is so, so, so important and crucial to understand when I hear somebody, I talk to somebody and they tell me, oh, I have an investment account. Oh, I'm already doing that. It's fantastic. That's so good. Here's the most important factor about having money in the market or having an investment account is not just having it in the market. It's understanding what rate is it compounding at. What's the interest rate? What are you getting on that money, right? And this is the perfect illustration for that. So let's just say you had your money sitting in an account that was earning 3% and it doubled every 24 years. How many 24-year periods do you have by the time you're in retirement? 4 maybe, 3 if you're lucky, 4 maybe, right? Because you're going to need to use that money, right? But let's just say you up it to 6% and your money is sitting in an account that's earning 6%. Well, that same $20,000 doubles every 12 years. So in that same time period, by the time you're at age retirement, you'll have $160,000. How long do you think you could survive on $160,000? Not very long, right? At age retirement, at 50 years old, let's say 60, let's just give it another, let's say 200,000, right? But if your money is at a 12% rate of return, where it's compounding at 12%, that's every 6 years. How many 6-year periods do we have by the time we get to retirement? Oh, Lord willing, enough, right? So by that same time period, by 50 years of age, you'll have $2.5 million. Big difference, little difference? Huge, right? Huge for this same exact money. So it is as important to know where your money is sitting as it is just having it in the market, right? Because oftentimes, like I said before, people will tell me, oh yeah, no, we have retirement accounts. Oh, we have money in the market. Fantastic. Are you going to be able to do anything with it? Right? Having somebody that understands what to look for is dramatically important, right, for your financial future. Now, let me show you exactly why that's important, right? I love this illustration. I use it all the time, right? And essentially, this will show you the power of compound interest and why making sure that every year you don't neglect even a year of having your money in the market for the sake of time. Because when we're dealing with compound interest, it's time. Time is literally the golden ticket. So let's look at brother A and brother B. Now, brother A started when he was 22 years old, and he maxed out his, his contributions for his IRA. Let's just assume it's an IRA. Now, he put, $6,000 every year for 8 years. And then by the time he hit 30 years old, he was like, 29, he was like, life's busy, I'm raising these kids, I just can't put a ton of money in there, I'm just gonna stop. So he stopped contributing after 8 years of having his money in the, putting his money in the market. And he just let the rest compound. Now brother B saw what his brother was doing, and he's like, you know what, I'm gonna outbeat him. That guy, he doesn't even know what's coming to him. I'm gonna put every single year. So from age 30 to age 67, every single year he contributed. He didn't miss a single year. So brother A only contributed $48,000. It's almost $50,000. That's all he contributed to his account. Brother B contributed $228,000. Never missed a payment from the time he was 30 till he was 67. Now, as you look at contributions, you would assume that brother B made more than brother A, right? That's our natural assumption because he contributed more. But because brother A had 8 more years to compound than brother B, brother A actually out-earned him by $200,000. So brother A made $2.2 million, while brother B only made $2 million in 41. Is that crazy or what? Like when we look at the context of compound interest, it is crazy to see how much more you can earn if you have the time. This is why time, when it comes to having your money in the market, is everything, right? Not missing as any years is so important because it adds, right? Whatever amount you put in, the interest earned is added to the initial principal, and then that amount then compounds. So you're talking about a larger boulder that's going down the hill, right? So time value. Now taxes, right? Everybody loves to talk about taxes, especially during tax season. And understanding the two main differences versus deductibility versus deferrability, right? Deductions versus deferring. Now, deduction is the amount of money that you can subtract from your gross income before you calculate taxes. Now, this is super, super important for business owners like ourselves, right? For people who are business owners, every single hard-earned dollar that you can recaptivate, that you don't have to pay Uncle Sam money for, is money that you want to have, right? And so having different type of accounts that allows you to deduct from your income is so important. And so there's different types of accounts that you want to make sure to set up if you're in that income bracket, that you are making too much money that you're going to end up having to pay for. You want to make sure to set up simples, SEPs, anything like that, depending on how many employees you have. You can make your spouse an employee. You can make your children's employees. So knowing that you have options if you're an independent business owner where you don't have like a big corporation or anything like that, having the right retirement account set up to where you can deduct and reduce your taxes, right? To be able to keep as much money as you can, because there's, the deductions that you can do. Now there's, of course, the deferrabilities, right? The deferring. Now, the reason why you want to defer a lot of your, your retirement is because at this stage, when you are growing, your business is growing, you're making a lot of money, your income bracket, your tax bracket is super high, right? Usually, let's say if it's at a 30%, you're accruing all this money. Well, you don't want to pay a 30% tax, right? And so you want to defer that money until you're in the retirement stage, where at that point, your taxes are no longer at the 30%. You're more at the 10% bracket, right? So you want to be paying taxes at 10%, not at a 30%, right? So that's the purpose of why you would defer it. Then, of course, we're looking at the different categories as far as, the retirement accounts. So you have your traditional IRAs, and then you have your Roths. Now, Roths are, when you look at the category of the contributions, you can contribute up to $65,000 if you're, not at 50 or above, or if you are at 50 or above, you can do 75. Now, when you look at the difference between a traditional versus a Roth is tax-free, right? And so tax-free money is super, obviously everybody wants tax-free money, right? And I would encourage everybody and anybody to make sure that you are getting your tax-free money, because there's nothing quite the same as free, right? Tax-free, not having to pay a single dime on it. However, if you find yourself that you're in a category where you make too much money, right? And it's about 250, or above is what it has to be in order to be a traditional. Sometimes we can also do backdoor Roths where you can make that amount 250 or more, and then at the end of the year you put it into traditional, and then at the end of the year during tax season you convert it. You convert it into a Roth. So there are options, but across the board, generally speaking, you are looking at the two different categories of traditional money, right? Of retirement accounts. It is the traditional, the IRAs, and then the Roths. And so of course there's income limits that apply, and there's different distributions. With the Roth, there is no age requirement distribution, which these are super, super important for anybody who's wanting to leave a legacy. So let's say, for example, you're building money, you're building a business, you're making a ton of money, you don't need the money, right? And if you're trying to set up your children and your children's children to set a financial future for them, Roth money is typically is what you pass on, because there's no minimum age requirement distribution. Whereas with traditional money, because you haven't paid taxes on it, by the time you hit 70, you have to start pulling money out, right? It's 73 is the requirement age that you have to start pulling out, because Uncle Sam wants his cut. So understanding the two different brackets of where you fall in is really important, in knowing how to use them for your benefit. Now, becoming an owner and not a loaner, super, 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 super important. And when we're talking about being an owner and not a loaner, most of us kind of fall into this category pre-financial education, where we are kind of like, everybody talks about their money, they're like, yeah, I have my money in a savings account, I have my money in the bank, right? Now, the bank is literally just a holding place for your money. Banks make money holding your money, right? Just like we were talking about earlier, why the banks are giving a higher interest rate on your money sitting in the market, in their money markets, is because they're dependent on your money sitting in there so that they can trade it into the global economy and be making, the 14, 15, 20% returns, while they're giving you a whopping 4%, right? And so teaching people what it's like to be an owner and not a loaner is super crucial. Now, in order to do that, oftentimes I hear people talk about, when we talk about this concept, trading the global economy with, what we prefer. We prefer to use mutual funds, whether it's stocks, bonds, mutual funds, whatever. People will say, well, isn't that really risky? Isn't it fluctuate with the market? And yes, there is absolutely risk involved. However, the only thing I like to encourage families in understanding is that when we're talking about trading on the global economy, you're also talking about commodities. Meaning, if our world goes to pot, right? Like the things that the commodities that we're trading, toothpaste, electronics, iPhones, iPads, lights, whatever, like things that we need, right? As long as those are in existence, as long as humans are in existence, we're going to be trading something. We're going to be buying and using something. So understanding where your money is being diversified and what you're becoming an owner of is very important. That's where diversifying your risk comes into play. Is because you don't want to just throw your money in the market in something like, I don't know, what was hot not too long ago.
Beanie Babies.
Beanie Babies or something like that, where you're like, oh, that's a hot trending thing. Sure, it might be good for the last year or two, but that's certainly not something where you want to, kind of rely on. You got to think about things that are in circulation no matter what, right? Like we learned in 2020, who knew toilet paper would be a hot commodity, right? Something like that. So understanding that if this all goes to pot, where all of a sudden it's like, oh, we could lose everything, I think we have much bigger issues at that point, right? The humanity as a race has much bigger issues. So understanding becoming an owner and not a loaner is super, super important. Taking your power back and becoming an owner. Own that iPhone, right? Own that whatever you like to buy, own it. Now, understanding the 3 Ds of investing: discipline, diversification, and dollar cost averaging. Now, discipline, staying focused and investing through all market activities, you actually increase your long-term potential. This is so much more true than anybody actually wants to admit. And this part here, most specifically, through all the market activities. The crazy thing is, when we're talking about the market trends, they do not, when we're the global market, right, the economy, does not actually follow the stock market, and our economy do not match each other. We can have, like we have over this last few years, the crappiest economy, right, where everything is hyperinflated and crazy expensive, and we, the people, are like, oh, this is so bad, this is so bad, this is so bad. But the global economy, when we're talking about like the stock market and what the actual, the money's been doing, it's been fantastic. Fantastic. And so understanding through all market activities, you have to be consistent and create a discipline. Because when it comes to the money game, this right here is the most powerful tool, because it's all up here. You cannot be emotional about your money. You can't. You have to create a discipline and make sure that you have, skimmed off the top when you're paying yourself first, and it's not all of your money, right? Then, of course, diversification. This is such a true statement. There is no perfect investment. Taking advantage of the next best thing, which is to build your portfolio by balancing a variety of investments. Now, I'm going to use this so loosely, and here's why. Because I do believe in diversification, 100%. However, there has to be education behind diversification. I had a gal come in the other day, and she works at Wells Fargo. And I was sharing with you, she was like afraid that, because they keep liquidating their branches, and a lot of people are getting laid off or whatever. And she's like, I keep seeing my coworkers getting fired. Like, I'm so afraid of losing my job. I want to whatever. So we start looking at her portfolios for, let's see where you're diversified, how you're diversified. And she knew diversification is important, because you hear it all the time: diversify, diversify, diversify. Now, the issue with high diversification is that if there's no education and understanding the prospectus and the actual accounts that you're diversified in, you could be spread across the map and your money going in 20 different directions, when actually there's only 2 accounts in that whole portfolio that are actually performing. And so instead of having most of your money in high yielding accounts, you're diversified all over the place, right? And so diversification is crucial, as long as you're aware of what those accounts are doing and which ones are high yielding and which ones are not. Because the worst case is to say, to have your money tied up in bonds, when bonds have been crap, right? It sounds great, but when you're young, you cannot have your money tied up in bonds, right? But understanding, having somebody who understands and can pull up a prospectus for you, can look at inception and what has it done during 2008, what has it done during recessions, what has it done during the Great Depression, how long has that been around? Don't put your money in things that don't perform, just to be diversified, right? So understanding diversification is super important. However, having some wisdom behind it with someone who knows what they're looking for is very, very important. And then, of course, dollar cost averaging. Most people kind of have this, not most, I hear this comment often, and it makes you understand when someone says it, it's because they don't understand the power of dollar cost averaging. They'll say, okay, well, I'm going to buy when it's low and I'm going to sell when it's high. And so they will do this teeter-totter with their money. They'll pull it out of the market, they're going to wait till it gets low, and then they're going to buy. And then once it goes up, they're going to sell it, and they'll wait till the market goes up, and they're going to sell it, and then when it comes down, they're going to buy. Now, the problem is that people that don't dollar cost average, and they're constantly pulling their money in, putting it out, pulling it out, putting it in, right? Is that they actually underperform someone who dollar cost averages. Now, dollar cost averaging, all it means is that you are buying on the up and you're buying on the down. You don't pull your money out. And the reason is that when the market goes down, let's say you're buying $100 worth of shares, okay? You put $100, every single month you're paying $100. Well, when the market's going down, that $100, instead of buying you 5 shares, it's buying you 10 shares, 20 shares, 30 shares, 50 shares, right? Because the market's going down. So that same $100 buys you more because it's on sale. Now, when the market starts to come back up, that $100 that you're buying is now buying you $30, $20, $10, not even, right? So buying on the down and buying on the up is super, super important because you make more. But that's by dollar cost averaging, meaning no matter what the month is doing, no matter what it's doing, keep purchasing those shares, on the down and on the high, because you end up making more, right? Versus somebody who pulls out, waits for the market to go down, then buys, right? So dollar cost averaging. Now, last but not least, the path to financial success starts with understanding a few basic concepts and implementing them. Winning the financial war is a result of winning the tiny battles day to day. You can get to financial success. You will get to financial success. You will accumulate all the things that you want to if you just focus on a few daily disciplines. One, understanding that when it comes to the money game, pay yourself first, okay? Pay yourself first. You are the most important asset to your family. You are the most important asset to this world. Nobody's gonna take care of you if you don't. And live under your means, okay? I can't stress that enough all the time. It is not sexy to be buying the latest, greatest when you don't have a ton of money saved. It's just not. Live under your means. And then, of course, make sure that you are reviewing it frequently. Because when it comes to financial success, you can't think that you are going to look at it once a year, once every few years, and be like, yes, I'm on track. It doesn't work that way. You have to have somebody fighting in your corner to make sure that we're checking it, quarterly. If you don't have somebody checking in with you quarterly, you got to find someone else. If you have any of these things set up, but you don't have an advisor that is calling you quarterly, you have to find somebody else, because nothing is more important than making sure that the hard-earned money that you are working for every single day, that you're building businesses and putting your energy in, that it is valued and that it does the most for you that you're intending to do. Because your money really is just a time currency. All it is a time currency, and it's a tool. So making sure that you know how to use it well and that somebody is going to honor it as much as you do, right, is super important. But anyway, so there's a lot more that goes with it, but that's that in a nutshell. So if you have any other questions, please feel free to, connect with me. I'd love to, look at whatever you've got. My husband is more of the investment expert, so he loves to geek out on all that stuff. I do too, kind of, but not like him. He's a detailed guy, so he will look at everything that you've got to make sure that you guys are in the right position possible, to make sure you maximize whatever you can do, because you're worth it. You deserve to, to be able to hit all those financial goals that you want. So, thanks so much for having me.
Yay.
Awesome. Great job. Good job. Thanks, friends. And do you guys have any questions? Bye. I love you. Do you guys have any questions for Eureka?
I do have one. I've looked into, so I've only been saving $6,000 for retirement. My husband saves his own whatever stuff. So I feel like we're in a good space together for retirement. But one of the things I've always been curious about is the SEPs, so the self-employment retirement programs. And I feel like when he retires, that's something that then he will obviously stop saving for retirement, because he will also be retired from the military. But I will still have my business capacities. Is there a recommended business income amount that you make? Or is it just once that income reaches that 20%, and then that 20% ends up being higher than $6,000, then you would recommend opening an SEP? Because I know SEPs, the amount you can save for retirement is insane, $50,000 or something per year. So it's way over the traditional amount of $20K or whatever you could from an employer sponsored one.
So your question is, at what point do you transfer?
At what point should I stop saving? At what income level does it make it worth it to open the SEP, or is it kind of anytime?
It's anytime. It doesn't really matter at what income. It really all depends on whether it's tax-free or you're being taxed. So you have to decide that because are you maxing out your Roth first?
No, because we got to a point where we were almost making too much and then it freaked me out. And so I have just been saving it in like the pre-tax version. So I take the deduction. But I'm not putting money in the Roth.
So, and that's because you're afraid of overdoing it?
No, because I'm afraid that as we are married filing jointly, so I'm afraid that like we'll make too much money. But which is a good problem to have. But if it is like $250K, I think that is probably like we probably are fine. I should probably just relax.
Yeah, the only suggestion I have in that regard that is like the number one, I always max out tax-free first.
Okay.
First, always. And then once you've maxed out your tax-free, and then worry about the other things. Because if you haven't quite even maxed that, then that's kind of where the important place to start.
Okay.
And then there's other things to do in that regard. Once you've maxed that out, then you look
at like maximizing the SEP. Okay.
Mm-hmm. But always tax-free first.
Okay.
Always.
I do have a Roth. I did put money to it for a while, and then I was like, what if I think we might make too much this year, and like I was like, all right, I'm just gonna stop and do the other account.
No.
Okay.
Never stop. Never stop. Always tax-free first. Like start there, and once you've maxed that out, and you've kind of stepped over that threshold, then everything else applies. But until then, make sure that you absolutely do not ever miss on a single dollar tax-free.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Because the rules are different there.
Yeah.
You can do anything
with
it.
I don't think I realized there was no age, like
Minimum
from like a
age
long-term
distribution,
wealth.
totally.
Because we always look. My husband calls my retirement account beer money because he's like, I mean, it's not in our in our calculations for like being able to like survive long term. But in that case, if we don't then need that money ever, if there's no age requirement to pull it out, then you could use that as like a legacy building.
But it's not, just think of it from the context of compounding. Like when you looked at the two brothers, brother A, brother B, if your Roth money, the compounding on it never gets disturbed.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's wild.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Wild.
It's like my niece is like 3, right? Like I could.
Or anything.
Or
anything.
Right.
Let's just say, like you can start taking it out whenever you need to, but even the principal, let's just say you live on the interest of it, but you don't touch the principal and the principal continues to compound.
Yeah.
And there's no requirement to disturb it.
Yeah.
Like it's
a whole other level of like thinking. Yeah. Which I love because I've always like said like I feel like my family did a great job money wise, but the one thing that they didn't do a great job of because they didn't have the experience with it was they always told me like, oh yeah, when you start your first job, they will have a retirement account. My dad worked for the same company for 40 plus years. So like that was their experience.
Totally.
And then they were always like, then you do exactly the amount or more of what the match is. You don't leave any money on the table. Oh, that's really good. Well, I married someone in the military. Guess how many times I've ever been vested in a company? 0, because I've never held a job over 2.5 years.
Right.
And it's always like a 5-year vest. So then I've always had to like save my own retirement. And so I would have started earlier. I mean, I started at like 26. It wasn't like the end of the world, but like,
oh yeah,
I would have done it differently. So now I'm like, all right, if I have my own business, how do I hire all of like my nieces and like my non-biological nieces and nephews so that they're like even more well off than we are because we don't have kids. So like, I'm like, how do I take care of everybody?
I love this convo, so I would definitely think you guys should connect afterwards for sure. I want to make sure that we're able to hear from you ladies about your business and what you do. So what we love to do is we also believe that everyone so it's right by the desk that you came in the elevator. Okay. Just past the elevator and turn left. Okay. So we love to Actually, I'll just make
Yeah,
a
if
couple
you just wanna
announcements
wait.
while
Yeah,
she's
yeah,
on.
Yeah, here is cards.
So here's our meeting time change.
It's. Can I just say thank you for this God moment of like being on a Wednesday when I have literally nothing and I have everything every other day of the week booked at that time except for Wednesday. Holy
Perfect.
shit
So
balls,
meeting time
guys.
changes.
That's
So we
crazy.
had huge groups in the afternoon, and then we kind of want to try. Another gal took over the afternoon groups, and we wanted to try this mid-morning time, and it just hasn't taken off as much as we wanted to. And so it was a good try for a season, but we're done with that because we want to make sure that, right, like network matters and who's in the room matters. And if it has still stayed small, then that shows me that there isn't enough of a market to keep this time and to make it valuable for any of us to be here and to stay at this time. So we are officially moving starting next month to the 4th Wednesday of every month. The only time that this will not be is in December because that's Christmas, and so it will probably be the week before, or let you know. But so the 4th Wednesday of every month from 4 to 6. So here's the next kind of quarter, if you will. April 24th, May 22nd, June 26th, July 24th. And so I'm excited to see the new faces that will come in the afternoons, which is going to be really, really fun. There'll probably be more champagne.
Yeah.
It turns to be a little bit more like work is over. We're going to have some bubbly type of a vibe. So just FYI for that. So I'm excited for what this next season is actually going to bring. Like I can feel the anticipation. I can feel the excitement that is coming with this time change. And so we'll make sure to send out emails and to let people know that we're going to have that, but it will bring in a whole new group of women, which is going to be super, super fun. So starting next month, we are meeting on the 4th Wednesday of every month from 4 to 6. Okay, so mark your calendars with that. Our April events, we have our, I think I have these backwards. These two dates are backwards. This should be the 24th. And these should be the 18th, okay? So our virtual online networking with other women from our other chapters, we all come together, that's gonna be April 18th. And then we have our online mastermind, if you're a part of that, that's April 18th as well. Like I said, these dates are flip-flopped. Our next networking event, again, is gonna be the 24th, right? There's that day, the 24th. And then what's super fun is I haven't done this event. Oh, there's Kaylee. I haven't done our girls' night out for about a year and a half, and it is one of the, think of it like Business Bestie meets Soul Sisters, and it's like a 4-hour evening of deep and rich connection. That's almost like a retreat, almost like a personal development, intimate, like we kind of get vulnerable, but then you leave so filled up, and it's a beautiful experience. So think of it like you're going to a retreat, and it is hands down, it's one of our favorite events, and it sells out every single time. So I'll keep a lookout for your email. I will send that out again, but if you want info on Girls Night Out, we're already almost halfway sold out, and tickets just went live last week. So if you go to businessandbubbly.com/Boise-GNO for Girls Night Out, that's where you'll be able to find out info about that. And that is definitely something that you are not going to want to miss. So we have a couple minutes left, and we want to make sure to hear from Anna and Lauren about your guys' businesses. And we believe one of some of our foundational things within our culture is that everyone gets to be seen, heard, known, and to find a place to belong. And we do what's called our signature statement. So this is kind of like a 30-second story, but way better. And we always love to start with why. Typically in a 30-second story, it's like, oh, what do you do? And here's my business, and here's my business card, and you just kind of stay at the surface, and it's pretty logical and heady, and a lot of people don't really understand it or connect with it. But we actually like to start with why you do what you do. Why you're passionate about what you're passionate about. And then you kind of get into a little bit more of the logistics of it, right? So I'll give you an example of what old school 1990s bad networking 30-second story pitches look like, and then I'll show you the difference of why of what we do and how we change it, okay? So my name is Charity. I run a networking group for women in business. It's called Business and Bubbly. We meet once a month and we connect women together and they do business together and we teach them, and it's so fun. You should totally come, right? Sounds all right, like okay, maybe. But if I come back over here right now and I'm starting with why, I believe that connection and community is one of the most important things that we can cultivate. And when women come together, especially heart to heart, business to business, belly to belly, it's one of the most powerful things in the world. Now I go into how I do what I do. So I do this through connecting women in our monthly events, through networking, through facilitate the connection exercises. And my business is called Business and Bubbly. So you feel how that, like, can you see how that feels different when you start with why you do what you do? And it's usually as a statement that says, I believe, okay? It's about 30 seconds, so it's not like a keynote speech, but you get to start with why you do what you do. And then you get into how you do a little bit, and then you get into what you do, okay? And you'll get better and better every single time. Trust me, I know when Lauren first started coming, it's like you fumble through it, but the idea that the reason that we do this every single time is so that you get better every time. So that when you leave here and all of a sudden you meet someone on the elevator, when you share why you do what you do, it's actually more memorable than what you do.
It does work, I swear.
It does.
It like gets embedded in your brain, and I feel like it changes a little bit every time, but like it gets more to the core each time you do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you want to watch a couple of these guys do it, and then you want to do it?
Sure.
Okay. All right. So Bio or Lauren, which one of you guys want to go first? All right, girlfriend.
I believe that parents can influence how their littles move if they are given access to the right information, and that they can help connect better with their children if they know how to play with them proactively to help them develop in ways that are optimal for their long-term health and experience. The way I do that is through in-home pediatric physical therapy services, where I go to parents' houses and help them learn how their littles move on their living room floors with like a cozy fireplace lit in the background during the winter months. And I love seeing how parents are able to understand their children better through different techniques like proactive play, or just learning about child development through their little's eyes. My business is Dr. Lauren Baker In-Home Pediatric Physical Therapy, and I serve the families of Boise and Treasure Valley, as well as doing online parent consultations internationally.
Great job.
I feel like I have like weird finger motions. Like I was like gonna like sprinkle weird fairy dust on you guys.
I love it.
So
great job.
Still
I love
working
how
on it.
close you're getting too. I love
Yeah,
it.
it's like-
Awesome.
I feel like I'm like got lion vibes.
Hey,
so
lean in. Yeah, we've got a couple minutes and then
I believe that having a financial education is foundational for every single family's mental health and well-being. Ignorance, I truly believe that age-old proverb that ignorance is not bliss. It's actually dramatically painful. And so how we do this is that we put together financial plans for families to help them understand where they're at versus where they need to be to get to where they want to go. And so we service them by putting together a financial game plan and showing them all the different facets of what their money will do for them. And yeah, so that's for him.
Tell us what your business is called.
We teach families how money works, so my husband and I partner together. That's what we are.
Do you have a business name?
Well, we function we're an independent contractor, so.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Do you have a website?
Yeah.
Okay. Just that's my only piece. I don't like.
You're good.
I'm getting weird, but only because if people like want to look you up, right, to see how to work with you, like any type of like,
Totally. Yep.
yeah, that's the only thing I would add.
Very good.
Good. That's great.
I like to stalk people. That's the only reason why.
Okay. I believe that the purchase of a home is one of the most exciting and rewarding purchases someone can make, or achievements someone can make. And I help with that by helping new home buyers find financing for their homes. And so I'm a mortgage loan originator.
That's awesome.
And it's also an independent contract under Michigan San Jose Mortgage.
Awesome. Great job. Great job. I love it. So here's for you.
Oh,
And here's for you. Thanks for coming. Some fun little goodies from one of our girls, one of our sponsors. So feel free to dig in. But that's what we got for today. And if you guys have any questions, let me know. But we always love to end with community. So even though there's a few of us, if we want to come on up here, we'll just
Can you just use my phone and do?
yes. We'll just set up a quick little selfie picture with Vio's phone. And can it be, I actually think I have another tripod, or we can always just do it right here in this camera and I can just snag it from online.
Alright, sure. I mean, we can either way, because I can do the timer. Yeah, it's a little far.
Here, let's get this.
alright, perfect. Me too.
Will that work?
Oh yeah.
Yara, do you know that you can use your Apple Watch as a
If it were connected.
oh.
I didn't know.
Yeah,
Mine's
sure,
just,
sure.
I haven't had it connected in so long, and I have such an old one, I just refuse to buy it.
And then you can
Why don't you just do a
switch
video and then we can just grab a
the-
screenshot from it.
Are you sure?
Yeah, it's
Well,
that's
that's
awesome. Smart. When we were like traveling, and I was like, oh, what's this? My iPhone or my Apple Watch was new, and I was like, oh, shut up, I can see us. I was like, Dylan, come
Okay,
here,
it's
we're gonna take a
videoing.
picture. Yeah, you can literally see the like picture. So if you use that camera where you can't see it, you can make sure you're in the right.
All right. Just smile on 3. 1, 2, 3. All right. So fun. Well, thank you so much for coming. Check your email for next month and just kind of a follow-up for Girls Night Out. Would love to have you guys. And we're meeting in the afternoons now. So invite your friends. We are going to have a really, really fun time. I'm excited to see the new group of women that come and join us.
I
So
literally cannot believe
Thank
that
you
I
so
was like the
much.
one. Literally, that is like my prime. Seeing like a couple like older kids,
yeah.
and like Wednesdays, I'm like
Journey.
forever. I can't cook anything on Wednesdays. I don't know why.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah.